I was not alone for the first lockdown. I should say I travelled west to Wiltshire with my own young family. I've got a daughter, she's 4, she was 1 when we went into the lockdown. I dare say that's maths many of you could have done in your own minds. Our daughter is ageing in direct proportion to linear time, and we're extremely proud. I was very lucky to get all of that time at home with her. I was meant to be away for a lot of that period with work, and instead I was at home every day with my daughter at this very sweet age and stage of her development. Her mum and I are both self-employed, so we could organise what little work we had around essentially watching our daughter learn to walk and talk in the sunshine in my parents' garden. It was a good time. I'm not going to go on about that too much, because obviously lockdown was very stressful. And there'll be parents in the room who had older children or more than one child or had to homeschool while working from home. I was friends with a few of those parents during the lockdown, and I learned very quickly they didn't want to hear about our picnics. Those awkward moments where I had to put down girl, woman, other for 10 seconds because my daughter had crawled out from under the parasol. I loved it. I loved being at home with my daughter, in my own childhood home as well. My own childhood toys. The hoarder's ultimate fantasy. The next generation crossover event. Watching her stare blankly at a bop it she'll never understand. She'll never have to understand. She'll never be bored enough to bop. That's been the whole of the last few years as well, having my daughter as a constant source of delight and distraction throughout all of these stressful times, watching her grow up in this strange new world, the new normal, basically just her normal. We went into a shop together a couple of years ago. I wasn't wearing a mask, and she said, "Daddy mask." I thought, that's quite cool. She already gets the whole mask thing. So I popped on my mask of Andy's face, straight into the shop. She barely knows who her father is by this point. I should say, I'm not trying to boast about her development. That same day, she did also lick a bus stop, so hard to tell exactly which of the signs she's following. Hard to look at your 2-year-old licking a bus stop in the middle of a pandemic and think, well, she hasn't been following all of the daily briefings. Don't get me wrong, the messaging has been inconsistent, but there is a fairly implicit link between us wearing these masks and us resisting our human and primal urge to lick every bus stop we can get our filthy tongues on. Don't get me wrong, I was first down the depot on Freedom Day, but you've got to wait. I enjoyed the family time during the first lockdown a great deal, but I should say, lest it become too smug, it was a complex time as well, because my daughter's mum and I were not actually together. We broke up in 2019 when our daughter was just a few months old, in what certain members of our extended families referred to, with delicious British understatement, as not ideal timing. And they were well within their rights to understate to that extent and beyond. Obviously now, we can look back and laugh, as we know just how not ideal the timing was still yet to become, as on the other side of the world, in Wuhan, an enterprising local gourmand tucked into their back ciabatta. And the very concept of distance and space became complicated for everybody indefinitely. I don't want to go on about it too much, obviously. It's not meant to be an awkward show or a breakup show, or certainly not a My Ex show. There is one My Ex punchline later on. I think it's important that I warn you about that and warn you what it is. The punchline is quite literally, and I must stress, separate categories. So there you go, forewarned. It was stressful, of course, at the time, 2019. Like any breakup, it was my first breakup. You'd have to say, an ambitious debut. But containing all of the ingredients as we know them and love them. A few tears, a bit of soul-searching, quick Edinburgh Comedy Award nomination, bang! Straight into the pandemic, no messing about. Probably worth adding for context as well that we were together for several years. We both wanted to be parents. We love being parents. We still consider ourselves a family unit for our daughter. We live near each other. Our daughter goes back and forth. We still do a lot of stuff together. But we also had a lot of stresses and strains in our relationship that we weren't always very good at working through. And so after one too many difficult conversations, we wondered whether we could be better as a family unit for our daughter without having all of those stresses of being a couple. And obviously it's still pretty early doors, but I think we're pretty proud of the decision we made and how we're doing. Now that's quite a long and tedious summary of the situation, and I do know that because apparently it exceeds the character count for a Tinder bio. They are sticklers for brevity over at Tinder. Had to shorten it down to just single dad soz, but I think the nuance is still there.